the message to Biden right there. Too little, too late. How you guys doing? There you go, guys. Out here in East Palestine, this is Joe Biden finally showing up more than a year later. And that's the message. Real simple. Too little, too late. Joe, too little, too late. All right, Mike, why is everyone out here?
This is Trump country here. This is nothing but a political stunt. Mike Ruley says who's going to be our next congressman. This town needs $250 to $300 million. Our slogan is too little, too late, Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
This town, simple. Yeah. You don't see any support in this town for Mr. Biden.
Yeah. You say Mr. Biden.
Yeah, Mr. Biden.
That's it.
Mr. Biden.
Yep. God bless you guys.
God bless you too as well.
Good to see you.
Good to see. Let me see those ones. Hold them up. There you go. Resident, not president. Don't sniff me, Joe. Don't sniff me, Joe. I love it. Latinos for Trump. Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rico.
I love it. God bless you.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Sleepy Joe Biden, who woke up one day and decided that, hey, I'm actually going to go and visit East Palestine, the small town in Ohio that was poisoned by a massive, disastrous train derailment that happened more than a year ago. Now, at the time, if you guys remember, Joe Biden was rightfully criticized for the slow federal response. He really did not seem to give a damn about what happened. He didn't even take the time to visit. And that really showed a lot of people that, hey, it seems like Joe Biden doesn't really care much for middle America. He was more focused on other things like taking vacations, sending money to Ukraine. In fact, I believe at the time he was actually in Ukraine or had been to Ukraine recently, but he couldn't find time to visit a small town in America, American citizens, after they were poisoned by a train derailment. And a lot of people took issue with Joe Biden and what seemed to be a blatant lack of concern and priority from Joe Biden when it comes to the American citizens when they are suffering and they need help and care and attention. He just didn't show up. Maybe because this town supports Trump and he thinks that people that do not support him politically, his political opponents, people who do not agree with him, maybe he thinks they're not worth the time and effort to help them out, even though they are Americans. So Joe Biden, for whatever reason, has decided to show up, maybe because it's the 2024 election coming up. It's election season. We all know how these politicians roll. And let's just say the people weren't too happy to see old Sleepy Joe.
Good morning, everyone. President Biden is expected here in the next few hours. I'm in East Palestine, Ohio. And it's been a year since I've been here, since that horrific train derailment that turned this beautiful town upside down. And I got to tell you, people are not happy. They feel that they've been abandoned by the administration. They don't understand why President Biden is coming now a year later. It's been a year, and they're upset.
You're on video. Is it a good?
You know what time Biden's going to be here?
No, that's what we're waiting to hear. I will let y'all know as soon as I find out.
All right.
How do you feel about Biden being here?
I think that he's coming too late. He should have been here a year ago instead of going over Ukraine and helping them. Help American citizens first.
Thank you all for coming. On behalf of the village of East Palestine, I want to welcome President Biden. As we pass the first anniversary of the train derailment, the village of East Palestine appreciates the support from the U.S. EPA, the Department of Transportation. We'd also like to thank Governor Mike DeWine, the Ohio EPA, the Ohio EMA, and the Department of Public Safety.
Mr. President, any message to residents who question why it took a year?
It's time to leave.
Any message to residents who question why it took a year?
And you just heard that. What was your reaction to Joe Biden and the EPA basically cheering themselves, giving themselves a pat on the back?
We're never going to get help. We're never going to get help. Like, how can they turn a blind eye when our kids are still having unexplained nosebleeds? When they're starting to have seizures, when we have to tuck kids into beds in homes that haven't been tested. We're citizens. We're not politics. We're people. Like, how can they do this to us?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the sentiment.
I also own a trucking company, and I've had several people call me and ask me if I could block the entrance of the town so that he can't come, because it's been over a year and now he wants to come when it's election time.
Allison says he's lost tens of thousands of dollars since February 3rd after his tenants up and left for good during the vinyl chloride controlled burn. Allison had to decontaminate and renovate his abandoned units.
Yeah, so I don't blame him for feeling that way, because Joe Biden showed the world exactly how he feels about Americans who happen to disagree with him politically by not showing up, not giving a damn when the tragedy first happened. And you had the former president of the United States, President Trump, show up and to show support, bringing supplies and resources to the American people when they needed it the most. And Joe Biden was more focused on Ukraine and trying to get money overseas to other people when the American people needed him the most. And now he wants to show up 1 year later, when it comes time to get reelected. Now he wants to act like he cares. Again, this is typical despicable politician behavior. That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. And I'm glad that the American people aren't being fooled by Joe Biden showing up right before the election to try to get votes. Because again, this is how politicians carry themselves. Don't be surprised if you see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris show up to the border to pretend like they care about what's going on at the border. Okay, this is what they do. They only come around to act like they care when they need a vote. But when they don't need a vote, they do exactly what Joe Biden did to East Palestine, which is to ignore them when they needed him the most, right? At least he could show up and show more support. Instead, he sent Pete Buttigieg, right? So again, I personally feel like Joe Biden here is feeling the heat, and that is why he showed up to East Palestine. And one of the reasons why he's probably feeling the heat is because he's getting a lot of criticisms for his cognitive deficiencies that are becoming more and more and more apparent by the day. I mean, the mainstream liberal media is running a full cover-up campaign for him along with the White House.
First, when I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week, his mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. I've been speaking to him for 30 years since we worked on the Brady bill and the assault weapons ban when I was a young congressman. He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong. He's going to win the election because he has a great record.
Listen, the word of the day when this report came out to describe the descriptions was gratuitous, and I think that was right. There were cheap shots.
I found some of the language in the report a little bit gratuitous.
I think that this special counsel report was gratuitous.
This gratuitous language that he used. Gratuitous language about his mental acuity.
A very gratuitous hypothetical about Biden's age.
I think the word gratuitous is generous. There was so much unnecessary, inflammatory, and partisan kind of language that was used about President Biden in there.
There's a Justice Department tradition that you don't interfere with presidential elections. This seems like the height of interference. It's gratuitous.
Republicans making hay out of the gratuitous age comments in the report.
This is a little bit, in my view, beyond editorializing. It is gratuitous political hackery.
All of the other language, we use the word extraneous, we use the word gratuitous, but like I said, I think those are generous words. Those are just actually too nice to say. They were not supposed to be there.
Yeah, so gratuitous, right? That word keeps floating around. That is a word that Kamala Harris used to describe the DOJ report trashing Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. And now you see the mainstream liberal media peddling that same term, right? That is a term that comes straight from the White House. Again, this is why I try to tell you guys how the mainstream liberal media and the White House are basically interconnected. The media is simply an arm of the government. The White House comes out and says something, and then the mainstream liberal media, they repeat it, right? Again, that is happening right in front of your face, okay? They're using the exact same wording and talking point, okay? But no matter how much they try to cover up Joe Biden's mental deficiencies that are extremely obvious, you're going to have moments like this where Joe Biden is trashing Trump and his mental deficiencies seem to show up the most when he's trashing Trump. Maybe that's a sign that he should stop doing that. But he's trying to trash Trump when it comes to Russia and this misinformation about Trump wanting to abandon NATO allies. And he has a moment that almost turned into a Mitch McConnell moment. And I've been telling you guys, I've been warning you that I personally think that the longer they keep Biden out on the campaign trail doing these type of speeches, there's a chance that he could have a Mitch McConnell moment, and he almost had one. Let's listen.
War crimes. You know, there was a bipartisan Senate vote that passed overwhelmingly in the United States Senate to fund Ukraine. Now, as I've said before, and I mean this in a literal sense, history's watching. History's watching the House of Representatives. The failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. It's going to go down in the pages of history. It really is. It's consequential. And the clock is ticking. And this has to happen. We have to help now. You know, we have to realize what we're dealing with Putin. All of us should reject the dangerous statements made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up.
Again, apparently, that's controversial, right? That's controversial. It's controversial to say that, hey, at the end of the day, if you don't pay us, then if Russia happens to invade, then, you know, we're really not going to say much about it. Apparently, that's controversial. These people don't believe in our so-called allies actually fulfilling their end of the bargain when it comes to this defense alliance, which is NATO, okay? You need to fulfill your end of the bargain. That's the whole point of being in an agreement, okay? I mean, this is not a welfare program, but it actually kind of is, okay? It is a welfare program where these countries all benefit from the United States, and they don't really give us anything in return.
He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking, but let me be clear.
Yeah, he's having a Mitch McConnell moment, right? This was almost a Mitch McConnell moment. That's what that was. That's what that was. He's losing it. He's losing it. I don't understand how you keep rolling this guy out on the campaign trail and at the White House to give these speeches, and this is what he's doing. And American people can see this. You can't hide this, right? Say whatever you want, but you cannot hide this. It's right here in your face. I would say it's hilarious, but it's not. It's actually extremely disturbing that this man is the president of the United States.
This is an outrageous thing for a president to say. I can't fathom. From Truman on, they're rolling over in their graves hearing this. As long as I'm president, America stands by our sacred commitment to our NATO allies, as they have stood by their commitments to us repeatedly. Putin and the whole world should know.
Well, if they stood by their commitments to us, then there would be no questions about their payments and their dues and whether or not they are fulfilling their end of the bargain, right? That was the whole point of this conversation that Trump had with that official who asked him that question.
If any adversary were to attack us, our NATO allies would back us. And if Putin were to attack a NATO ally, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory. Now's the time for even greater unity among our NATO allies, to stand up to the threat that Putin's Russia poses. You know, I send my deepest condolences to Alexei's staff and supporters. We're going to continue his work despite this loss, despite all of Putin's desperate attempts to stamp out the opposition, and most of all to his family, especially to his wife, his daughter, and his son, who've already sacrificed so much for their family and a shared dream for a better future for Russia.
Yeah, so Putin endorsed Biden, by the way, right? Putin said, I would much rather have Biden be president. And I believe him. Some people are claiming that this is a psyop, that Putin's just saying this to try to do reverse psychology on the American people. And I don't think that's it. I actually think that he would much rather have Biden be president because Trump is the only president that Putin decided that, you know what, I'm not going to invade any new countries, right? We're not going to invade any new countries under that guy Trump because Trump, he's a lot more unpredictable than somebody like Biden, right? So I actually believe him when he says that. And that goes against the mainstream liberal media narrative about how Trump is Putin's preferred presidential candidate. And I don't think that's the case. I actually think that Biden being president is playing into Russia's hands more so than anything. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.